President Donald Trump will reassert himself as the dominant force in the Republican Party and stake his claim as the presumptive 2024 GOP presidential nominee when he delivers a speech Sunday at the annual CPAC conference. According to people familiar with his thinking, President Trump wants to show his unrivaled and undiminished hold on the party's base despite no longer holding the bully pulpits of the presidency or his Twitter account. Trump's senior advisor Jason Miller said, "Trump effectively is the Republican Party. The only chasm is between Beltway insiders and grassroots Republicans around the country. When you attack President Trump, you're attacking the Republican grassroots." The former president will undoubtedly receive a wildly enthusiastic reception at the conference in Orlando, Florida. His previous addresses to CPAC audiences during his presidency were punctuated with standing ovations as he served up red meat for conservatives and, once, literally hugged an American flag. This time, President Trump is expected to lay out an agenda that includes confronting China, attacking President Biden's immigration policies, reopening schools and loosening big tech's grip on political discourse. A supporting cast of speakers features some of President Trump's inner circle, Donald Trump Jr. and his girlfriend Kimberly Guilfoyle, former White House press secretary and Arkansas GOP gubernatorial candidate Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and congressional allies such as Republican Representative Mo Brooks of Alabama and Matt Gaetz of Florida. Not in the lineup is former Vice President Mike Pence, who was once considered perhaps the strongest contender for the GOP nomination in 2024. He's decided to skip this year's conference, a decision CPAC organizers called a mistake. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri and Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas are among the possible GOP 2024 contenders looking to make inroads with Trump supporters. Mr. Gaetz said President Trump was talking absolutely like a candidate when he visited the former president on Saturday in Florida. Mr. Gaetz said Sunday on Fox News, "I believe that the future of the GOP is another candidacy for President Trump in 2024. The Republican National Committee issued a fundraising email on Monday seeking donations for the Trump Legacy Membership Program, calling it an exclusive group of President Trump's most loyal supporters. The Republican National Committee said, "Our beautiful movement is just getting started, and President Trump wants you to be an important part of it." The former president is re-entering the spotlight even as he persists with his claims that he won the election last November, but had it stolen from him through voter fraud. After losing a Supreme Court ruling on Monday allowing the Manhattan District Attorney access to his private financial records, President Trump said it was a continuation of the election crimes that were committed against me. His CPAC appearance is coming as prominent Republicans are seeking his help in raising campaign cash and promoting candidates for the 2022 congressional election cycle. The divide between the GOP establishment and the Trump wing of the party has widened since his presidency ended after a MAGA hat-wearing mob stormed the United States Capitol to protest Mr. Trump's defeat. Republicans who previously griped in private about the president's boorish behavior have been increasingly willing to share their criticism publicly. They've won some praise, but, in several cases, have been censured by their state parties. Andy Sarabian, a GOP strategist said, "Poll after poll over the last month has shown that former President Trump is still the overwhelming head of the Republican Party and no one comes close to him. That's why in every competitive primary this cycle, all of the top-tier candidates are running toward Trump and not away from him. That has certainly become clear in Ohio, where former state treasurer Josh Mandel and former state GOP party chair Jane Timken recently entered the race carrying the Trump banner and taking aim at anti-Trumpers and establishment types." Mr. Sarabian said, "There is no GOP civil war over Trump, because to have an intra-party civil war, you need to have two sides with actual voting constituencies, and unlike civil wars of the GOP past, the anti-Trump side is basically a handful of operatives in the Beltway who always hated him deep down and are not our actual voters." His insistence that the election was stolen will drive 7 separate Protecting Elections panel discussions at CPAC, ranging from why judges and media refuse to look at the evidence to the left pulled the strings, covered it up, and even admits it. The focus on President Trump marks a dramatic turn of events from 2016 when President Trump opted against appearing at CPAC after reports surfaced that activists were planning a walkout to protest his address to the conference. William Temple, a CPAC regular who planned the protest, has gone from calling President Trump a megalomaniac to seeing him as the best president the United States ever had. Mr. Temple told The Times, "This guy did more in 3 years than any president, even Reagan, since I was born, and I was born in 1950. So he was a unique president, and he still controls this party whether the Renos like it or not. If they set themselves up against him, they are in trouble." Mr. Temple said Mr. Trump fulfilled his promises. The 70-year-old said he believes the election was stolen and that Democrats welcomed the attack at the Capitol as a way to paint all Trump backers in a negative light. Top organizers of the Conservative Political Action Conference said they think it's a mistake that former Vice President Mike Pence has declined to speak at this year's event, while former President Trump accepted his invitation. CPAC Executive Director Dan Schneider said on MSNBC Sunday, "We are pleased that the President is going to be joining us, and we're disappointed the Vice President's not coming. We think that it's a mistake for him not to come. We conservatives think of Vice President Pence with great honor and dignity. He is a real champion of conservatism," he said. "He's spoken at CPAC 14 times over the years, and I know if he were to come to CPAC, he would be treated very warmly with great respect. And frankly, I really hope that he reconsiders, and if he wants to come, we'll make room for him." Politico first reported Saturday that Mr. Pence had declined an invitation to the annual conference, which will be held in Orlando, Florida, this year instead of in Maryland. The news highlights the strained relationship between Mr. Pence and President Trump since the January 6 riot at the United States Capitol. According to CNN, one source said organizers still hope to change Pence's mind about attending, while another source said Pence is planning to stay under the radar for the next 6 months. Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union and a primary organizer of CPAC, also said it was a mistake for Mr. Pence to avoid the event. Mr. Schlapp told CNN, "His conservative record is well respected, and conservatives want to hear his take on the current threats posed by socialism and this radicalized Democrat Party." President Trump is scheduled to speak at CPAC this Sunday, the final day of the conference.